Hello. In this episode of the House of Lechmere, I'm going to have a discussion with my good friend Chris Bolister, who I think it's fair to describe is a Lechmere Theory skeptic. Hello, Chris.
How you doing, Edward?
How long have I known you?
A long time, mate, a long time.
And where did I first come across you then?
Probably on the old casebook forums on when I was Moonbeggar. You and Mr. Krista, we had a lot of briefs together.
Me and Krista, we had lots of discussions.
Absolutely.
All very gentlemanly and good-natured, although we agreed on some things and disagreed on others, didn't we?
Very much so, very much so.
And that's how these discussions should be. I think it's fair to describe you as a Lechmere Theory denier. Would you say that?
I would say that I'm very much, I bank on the evidence.
Yeah.
And the evidence don't really suggest as much as he was the culprit that we're looking for.
But the good thing is we can have a proper discussion about it without it getting all stupid, as with some people it gets gets all mad and personal insults. We can have a proper discussion. And we're in the Blind Beggar pub.
Yes.
Which is where I've met you a couple of times before, where the Crays notoriously murdered
the bullets up there somewhere, isn't it?
Supposedly, over in that corner over there he was standing. And but we're going to go and have a look at Bucks Row, because Bucks Row is just around the corner, and we're going to discuss some of the key pieces of evidence and see if we can thrash out what is likely to have happened on the day.
Based on the evidence.
Yeah, based on the evidence when Polly Nichols was murdered.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm here with Chris, with Sainsbury's behind us. This is Brady Street, and here we have Durward Street, which was called Bucks Row. This is the corner where Charles Lechmere would have crossed over, followed hot on the heels by Robert Paul. So we're coming around the corner now. We're Robert Paul. So what do you say about Robert Paul as he comes around the corner here?
Well, Robert Paul, he was walking this way, but he wasn't hot on the heels, as you say, for my own personal belief.
Okay.
So he's walking.
We'll come on to that.
He's walking down the street, and at some point he sees nothing suspicious, which is in it's in opposition to what Lechmere claims, where he says he sees him at 30 yards away or 40 yards away.
I don't think that's a contradiction. What Paul said in the context of what he witnessed in Bucks Row that morning, apart from the fact that there was a dead body there, he saw nothing suspicious. He didn't see anything to raise his suspicions against Lechmere or Cross, whatever you want to call him.
Exactly, but if he'd seen Cross stepping away from the body, that would have been something suspicious. Whereas
I can accept that.
We don't know when he said he sees something suspicious or when he not says that.
Okay, we're in this little bit of conversation now. We're actually now by the crime scene. The crime scene was there, right there. So Lechmere was standing in the road, around here somewhere. So what's your theory of what happened? Well,
I believe that Cross came into the middle of the road, saw the body.
So he walked up, in your opinion, he walked up the north side of the pavement on Bucks Row to around, here?
Around this spot, opposite the body.
Incidentally, what do you think of the theory that he actually crossed over from a oblique angle some 30 yards down there?
Don't buy that at all.
Why don't you buy it?
Because all the evidence is opposite to what they're claiming in that kind of theory. Yeah?
Also, my view is, if he'd seen him, if he walked over from past where that bloke is now, roughly where that woman is down there.
But that's only Lechmere's.
Yeah, but that's going to some of the theorists. He would never have seen the body laying there in the dark at that distance, would he?
No.
So it's physically kind of impossible.
I would.
Besides the fact that most of the testimony doesn't.
No, I would say exactly the same.
Yeah. So he comes up to on the north side of the pavement to roughly opposite where she was laying.
Opposite.
And what do you think happened next? What's your view of what happened next?
If you shut up and tell me, let me tell you.
Okay, very angry now.
So he walks across, he finds the body,
Yeah.
the person laying there,
What?
and he walks back. This is according to all this testimony, all the inquest. He walks back, waits, and then he sees Paul, allegedly, but we don't know when Paul sees him. So Paul could see him when he's standing in the middle of the street, right when he first turns into the road.
Well, what does Paul say?
Well, Paul claims that he saw the man standing in the middle of the road.
Or
By the body.
yes.
So that's
they both
the body.
they both amount to the same thing because this is the
Yeah.
width of the road. So whether you're here or here, you're both by the body, aren't you? And Paul's down there.
I've got no qualms about that in the slightest, mate.
So you think I was discussing this with you before. You think that that Lechmere was with the body for longer. Is that right?
Maybe there's no rhyme or reason to that theory, but I would suggest that it's a possibility that he went over, he looked, he see it was a woman's body, he stood back, he saw Paul coming up the street, or he heard Paul coming up the street,
Yeah.
and he stood back in the street and he waited for Paul. Whereas if Lechmere or Cross was guilty, from this point on he'd have been down the road and no one would have seen him.
That's a separate argument. So what's your explanation for the fact that Lechmere here could hear Paul 30 or 40 yards away,
But
according to him, which is
Lechmere's
before
theory.
you see that truck with the lights flashing. It was this side of that vehicle with the lights flashing is 30 to 40 yards. It's not much further than those two people on the left-hand side.
Okay,
there now.
so
why did he only hear Paul there, whereas PC Neal could hear PC Thane right down by Sainsbury's at the very far end down there, which is 120 yards. He only said he heard him at 30 to 40 yards. What's your explanation?
It wasn't disputed by Paul in Paul's inquest testimony, so that wasn't disputed. So the fact that he heard,
Well, it was Lechmere's testimony, wasn't it?
well, no, Paul's testimony and all said he turned around and see the man standing up where the body
yes.
was. So Lechmere's testimony saying he saw 30 or 40 yards, you see Paul in the distance walking up towards him, wasn't disputed by Paul. But
Yes.
if Lechmere or Cross was the killer, you'd have had to step back out of the way of the body and be in the middle of the street from where Paul first saw him, and that way Paul saw nothing suspicious.
Okay, so your case is, well, that's a slightly separate issue. So you're saying
It's
that...
not a separate bloody issue, is
Well,
it?
you're saying that he didn't see Lechmere stand away from the body.
Exactly.
Therefore, he's not suspicious. We'll come on to that in a second. What's your explanation for the fact that Lechmere didn't hear Paul until he was 30 or 40 yards away?
I'm not saying he did. Maybe he did. Maybe he heard him.
What's your explanation for that? Seeing as how PC Neal could hear PC Thane at 120 yards, did he have cloth ears? Why did Lechmere not hear Paul sooner?
That could be anything from Lechmere feeling guilty, Cross feeling guilty, finding a body, as anyone would, feeling suspicious, stepping back in the road.
Suspicious?
Yeah, absolutely. And hearing Paul in the distance walking up behind
So
him.
where do you think he
So
actually
he stands
heard him?
back, because if he was guilty, it would have been gone. It would have been long
Well,
gone.
we'll come on to that. That's a separate. That's another art. We will come back to that discussion. So I'm going to come back now to what you said earlier about how Paul didn't see the movement of Lechmere from the body. If Lechmere was guilty, he'd have been here, and then he saw him a couple of paces away. And you think that proves that he's innocent because Paul didn't see anything suspicious. He didn't see this movement. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Paul saw nothing suspicious walking up the street. Now, if he'd seen Lechmere Cross step back, that would have been something suspicious. Can you agree with that?
If he'd seen that, yes, but I would suggest that it was seeing is different from hearing.
So you couldn't. You're suggesting that from down there he couldn't see up here.
I would suggest that it was quite dark. There were quite high buildings on both sides of the road here.
There was no, but he was in the middle of the street.
Roughly where we are now.
Right.
If he did I think the reason why Paul noticed him at all is because in the dark, movement is something you can see. If Lechmere was standing stock still...
So if he steps out of the shadows into the light...
No, if Lechmere was standing stock still in the middle of the road, Paul probably wouldn't have seen him until he was much closer to him. I think it was the fact that Lechmere moved was what alerted Paul to the fact that Lechmere was here at all.
So you're suggesting that Paul would have seen Lechmere step out of the shadows into the light and still seen nothing suspicious?
Well, I think probably Paul was about 50 yards away down there because Lechmere's getting...
But there's no evidence of that?
No, the evidence is only on Lechmere's say-so that it was 30 or 40 yards. I think logically it would have been a little bit further. If he was guilty, it would have been a little bit further. He's got to put his knife away, do a few things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that would have been a lot further away.
Which would have perhaps stretched it to 50
Whereas Paul, not disputing what Lechmere claimed he saw him 30, 40 yards away, doesn't take that out of the equation. Paul merely mentions is he saw him when he turned, or any time from when he turned the corner.
Well, when Paul, the way Paul describes it,
you've got to bear in mind, Lechmere also said that he would have seen anyone or would have heard anyone running away. So if you're talking the dark shadows...
Lechmere says that when he came into Bucks Row, right down the end there, if someone had been here at the crime scene, and there wouldn't have been those cars parked up there, obviously, and it would have been a clear-ass street, really, wouldn't it? So he would have, according to Lechmere, if someone had been here and had departed before he got here, he reckons he would have noticed.
So Paul would have had exactly the same view?
Yes, but no, because a departing person fleeing up here makes noise. A person standing still, this is the important distinction. A person standing still doesn't create an image that people see in the dark.
We know
this is something that people know in the army when you're trying to shoot people, that if you stand dead still, you blend into the background in the dark. Movement is what people notice in the dark.
Yeah, but so Paul would have noticed Lechmere moving back out of the dark into the light.
Well,
sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably why he noticed him. That's my point. That's why I think he noticed him.
But he didn't see nothing suspicious.
No, because Lechmere wanted to allay his suspicions when he was with him in person.
Why would he want to do that when every other murder he was gone at exactly the same time?
Every other murder, he almost got caught probably with Lestrade for a start.
That's the debatable.
Well, presuming that I think it was a Ripper victim, he was probably disturbed. The murder of Alice Mackenzie almost certainly was disturbed. The killer in these these crimes was incredibly risky. That one as well, yeah. So when you murder someone in the street, it's an incredibly risky undertaking. He must have been an adrenaline junkie, the person responsible, who actually probably got a kick out of the...
Again, that's an assumption.
Yeah, it is, but I think it's a fair assumption. You don't have to kill someone in the street. Repeatedly, it's a very risky undertaking. It's a very densely populated
Well, that's why he went to Henry Street. That's why he went to the backyard.
Well, you're assuming that he deliberately went to the backyard.
We both know that the women took and led the
so he wouldn't have known
the killer to their
he wouldn't have known
killing.
He was going to be taken to the backyard. He wouldn't have known probably that he was going to be taken into Mary Kelly's room. That was like he struck lucky kind of thing from his point of view.
That's out of the region where we are, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but so if you accept that the killer the victim almost certainly took the killer to the victim chose the location of their own death in a way.
I can dig that.
Then he kind of knew that he was going to be taken to a very, very risky location, come what may. He must have known wherever the location was, it was going to be a risky location.
So I think where we're going wrong, where we're crossing lines, is we're conflating the killer with Cross or Lechmere.
Well, no, whoever the killer was.
Yeah, but okay. So you take out the equation, the Cross, and then you say, okay, makes perfect sense that Cross walking down the street, wouldn't have heard no one come because the killer was skulted up here out the way with the shadows.
Well, I'm only going on what he said. If he's innocent, if he's guilty, I believe he said that he didn't see anyone because he didn't want to be called back as a major witness through saying he'd seen someone escape.
So why would he wait around for the guy to walk from the bottom of the street?
Okay, we'll come on to that argument now. So we've got Robert Paul coming down here. This is my view of what happened.
Okay.
We have Lechmere with the body. He's
where
absorbed,
you are right now.
Yeah. Well, no, it'd be here. It'd be here.
No, that's not the middle of the bloody street.
No,
is
but
it?
if he's guilty, he's here, isn't he?
No.
If he's guilty, he's here.
Well, when Paul
when he's
first
killing,
sees
if
him,
he's
and you said he
guilty,
walks back.
if he's guilty, he's killing the victim here.
Okay, right. And he walks. Here's Paul.
He's absorbed in what he's doing. He's absorbed in what he's doing here. I think probably facing this way.
Right.
Facing west, because this is
Assumption again.
Yeah, of course, it's all assumption, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's an assumption that he was killing her.
Yeah.
So he was facing west because this is the direction he would have known PC Neal would be coming from. Because I believe he passed PC Neal on Whitechapel Road.
And he would rely on his hearing to hear what's going on down this end.
Yeah, but if you're absorbed in something and you're doing something that's
Again, assumption. You don't know that.
Well, I think it's a fair assumption. The killer would have been absorbed.
He knew what he was doing at Mitre Square. He knew when to leave at that point.
He got away with it.
Well, that's
he got away
because
with it,
he
and
knew
that
what
was
he
once.
doing.
I think it's also once bitten, twice shy. He almost got caught on this occasion, so he's going to be more. Even if it wasn't Lechmere, the killer would have been more. Logically, would have been more careful in subsequent murders because he. I think. Do you? Okay, let's roll back a little bit. Do you accept? Do you accept that it's very likely that the killer was disturbed?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Because of the blood evidence, the fact that the wounds were covered.
And the coroner even says.
Yes, yeah.
The coroner says.
I think it's undisputed. People do dispute things. One thing about Chris is that although he's not, as you've probably picked up, he's not a proponent of the Lechmere theory by any shape or form, but he accepts the sensible conclusion. So he accepts that it's almost certain the killer was disturbed.
Yep.
Would you accept that it's then by Lechmere? You presumably think that Lechmere disturbed the killer and the killer fled just before.
Yeah.
And so it was a very freshly slain body, and Lechmere was the guy who did the disturbing.
Exactly, within minutes.
As opposed to Paul being the person who disturbed Lechmere within moments, within a minute, couple of minutes max.
The killer, as was discovered with later murders, didn't stick around, didn't hang around, he didn't eat her.
So we have either Lechmere or somebody else. If you think it wasn't Lechmere, you think some Lechmere who's coming down the road there unknowingly disturbed someone.
According to Paul's Lloyd report, we have the man discovered with the body, and the police. I know you say that they discarded that.
We'll come back to the police investigation.
Okay.
That point you're making. Okay, you think that this Lechmere, as he came into the road, disturbed the real killer,
and that was the coroner. And that wasn't just me.
No. I think it's I obviously think that. I don't think Lechmere disturbed him. I think Robert Paul disturbed him.
But why would that? My question is this: to Team Lechmere, why would Cross hang around here
We'll come on to that in a minute. I know you're trying not to answer this question here.
On, okay.
I know you're trying to divert this one. You think that someone else did it, and your favoured suspects are what I call the two T's.
It's a possibility.
Francis Thompson, the poet.
And Tumblety. And
They're both Francis, aren't they?
Yeah.
The two Francises.
The two T's.
The two F's. The two F's or the two FTs.
Yeah.
You think that they were working in concert together?
I have not got a clue. That's my theory. But
if you haven't got a theory, you must have more of a clue.
No, I
don't want to embarrass you.
No, every report I've seen on the Richard Thompson's book and
Richard Patterson's book,
and regarding Thompson and Tumblety, but he doesn't mention Tumblety.
No.
But
he thinks it's a lone wolf. Thompson.
There's Tumblety had the money, the means, and we had the area like Soho, where they both hung around, and they both stalked that street area, the Cleveland Street, the brothels, the boy brothels. So
you're wrapping a lot of things in together there, aren't you?
Well, no, there is a lot of things wrapped into one.
Yeah.
And for
So you think as Lechmere come round to the corner, I'm not trying to justify the whole Thompson Tumblety thing.
As long as you don't edit this and make it just about Lechmere.
No. We I don't want to make you look
Tumblety,
stupid. So as
another tequila.
So did they work together?
I think, if anything, for my theory on that, which is brief, my theory on that could be possibility that Tumblety was the finance behind the murders. And
so he didn't go on the street and do them?
No, he had Thompson do the murders.
Do the dirty work.
And
so
he was there.
So Thompson's here on his own. This is where I'm getting to.
Okay.
So as Lechmere comes around the corner, sight unseen, Thompson's here and he disappears.
Yeah.
That's your...
It's a possibility.
Okay. I'm not going to go further into that from there. So don't worry. I'm not going to cross-examine you on that anymore. Okay, so now we're going to come back to the issue that Chris has been trying to get me onto several times, and that is Lechmere. Why did he not flee the scene? Perhaps in that direction. You got Paul walking down that way. When he heard Paul, first became aware of Paul. Why didn't he flee down there before Paul?
Because he was innocent.
Well, what would you describe this scenario as
obviously,
being?
It's a darling, you got to let me know. Should I stay or should I go? If I stay, there will be trouble. If I go, there will be double. Don't let him rip these words around now into some kind of...
And that shows you that the Clash had the solution.
Joe Strummer had it sussed out from day one.
If I stay, there will be trouble. He was in trouble. He had to go to the inquest. If I go, there will be double.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know who he's going to bump into down there.
Yeah, but I don't think Joe Strummer was talking about Jack the Ripper.
Well, subliminally. So what you've got Paul coming up here. You've got Lechmere here. Lechmere is absorbed in what he's doing, in my opinion. He allows Paul to get close to him, too close for comfort.
Not too close.
Too close for him to be able to flee in that direction and get round the corner of the school, the board school there.
That's much quicker for him to go from
That's
there.
That's about the same distance. It's about the same distance.
From here,
measured, it's the same distance.
No.
It's 40 yards from here to there. 30, 40 yards. And the second point is, up there on the right-hand side, 60 yards away, was PC 81 of the GER, looking after the Great Eastern Railway Yard depot. Yeah. Up there on the right-hand side, his job was to man the gate. And he almost certainly knew he was there because he had walked past here on his way to work on many occasions. It seems that when they went past PC81, the GER, he was like in the back somewhere. He was probably having a fag round the back and didn't notice them walking past. But he would have been, as Paul came up here and Lechmere's fleeing down there, Paul may well have shouted out, "Oh, there's a lot of supposition." If you're the murderer, you're going to think that, aren't you? You're going to think that, and you've got PC81 there. You've got PC Neil coming around here any moment, and so that's why he chose in that split second. He had a split second to make a decision. Do I go and confront the person? And psychopaths tend to do that. It's a fight or flight scenario. Psychopaths tend to respond as a fight, to be in charge of the situation rather than going off into the unknown. That's the response that they are programmed, they're hardwired to do, and that's why, in my opinion, he went up to Paul. Chief Superintendent Andy Griffiths, who was
Chris's
here,
friend.
Yeah, he appeared in the brilliant documentary Missing Evidence, Jack the Ripper. I was here when they were filming the sequence here, and I said to Andy Griffiths, "What do you think? How would a serial killer respond? Would they go? Would they, as the Clash? Would I stay? Would they stay? Or would they go?
I would have said go.
Would they go, or would they stay? What response would you expect as an experienced murder squad detective?"
Well, I know what he said.
He said I'd expect him to do exactly as Lechmere did. He is an experienced, as I say, a very experienced murder squad detective. And if you read studies of psychopathic behaviour, it again is in conformity with that. Normal people, like you, who's not a psychopath.
Was he a psychopath, the killer?
The killer would have almost certainly been a psychopath.
Almost certainly.
Nearly all serial killers of that type are repeat serial killers. Serial killers are repeat.
Yeah, but we don't even know how many murders we can attribute to this one killer.
True, but in my theory, he's a psychopathic serial killer.
He's a psychopath.
Because they would have been to kill repeatedly and get away with it. You do get some schizophrenics.
But my question to my question to Andy would be, if the killer's here,
Andy Griffiths, you mean?
Yeah, to Andy Griffiths, my
Chief Superintendent Griffiths.
Chief and Superintendent Griffiths would be, if the killer's here doing the deed, and he hears Paul, as he obviously did, way down the bottom of the row, why wouldn't the killer
for the reasons
skulk
I've
along
just told
the
you?
shadows?
For the reasons I've told you, because he didn't know Paul's response when Paul got to the body. He didn't know whether he'd alert.
He didn't need to know any then.
Well, he did, because he should have been worried. He should have been concerned. What will happen?
But he wasn't concerned in Market Square. He wasn't concerned in Harriet Street.
Well, he wasn't disturbed in the act there, was he? He wasn't caught in the act.
Why is that?
Because he was more careful, because he was luckier.
You can't
on those
say
occasions.
he was careful in Market Square.
I'd say he was lucky. He was lucky. He wasn't disturbed. The fact is, you've admitted that you think the killer was disturbed here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Was he disturbed in Hanbury Street?
We don't know that.
Well, he doesn't seem to have been, does he? Was he disturbed at Mitre Square? Doesn't seem to have been. Was he disturbed?
Again,
was he disturbed at
Miller's Court?
Miller's Court. Doesn't seem to have been.
We don't know that.
Was he disturbed at? Or what does the evidence tell us? Do you think he was disturbed at Miller's Court? It doesn't seem. There's no real.
No, I don't think so. He was disturbed in
So
but there's no evidence to show that he was or wasn't.
Well, there is evidence to show that he was disturbed here.
Plenty of time.
There is evidence to show that he was disturbed with Liz Stride at Duckfield's yard.
Yeah, I'm not 100% Liz Stride. I'm not.
Well, you don't think he was a victim of Jack the Ripper?
I don't know.
Okay, well, we won't go down. We're going.
Do you know what?
There'll be another episode.
Krista actually put me straight on a lot of stuff with the Liz Stride murder, where I'm like, okay, maybe that was a killing of Jack. Can it be attributed to Jack the Ripper? But here, which is the whole crux of the issue, a killer over a body right here would be aware of someone coming around that square, just as Neil was for Thane.
Well, he was disturbed.
120
he was disturbed.
He heard Thane all them yards away.
I get what you're saying. You think that the killer would have heard Lechmere as he turned the corner?
No. Oh, yeah. Okay.
More or less. Do you think?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Even before he turned the corner.
Even before he turned the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Your footsteps don't start as soon as you kind of walk into the road.
They'd have kind of been.
They reverberate off the buildings.
If you're round a corner, they're kind of enclosed within the buildings there, aren't they? Like within that echo chamber, I would say. Okay, you think one of your propositions, which I've seen you make several times, is you agree. Okay, first of all, you agree that Lechmere's position here looked very suspicious.
Absolutely.
You're not one of these people. Some of the deniers, the Lechmere Theory deniers,
no, he wasn't down the
refuse to even believe that there's anything suspicious about him.
No, that was.
You agree that
Paul's Lloyd Sunday thing. He looked suspicious. He sounded suspicious, and that's why I said the police would have checked him out there.
Okay. So you think that because he was in such a compromising situation, there's no way that the police wouldn't have checked him out?
Yeah, why would they? Why?
Okay. Well,
ask Andy Griffith.
Well, one of the I didn't ask him that to be truthful.
Would they suspect anyone that was found over a body?
Now I'm sure they still make mistakes now. Actually, he probably wouldn't admit that because he's not going to diss his own bloody organisation. Most people who are against Lechmere maintain that as he was on his way to work, he's supposedly happily married, family man with loads of kids. Couldn't possibly be guilty for those reasons alone, and I believe for those reasons, those are the same reasons why the police at the time didn't do anything about it, just dismissed him as a possibility. For the same reason that not you, but most people who are against Lechmere dismiss him out. He was on his way to work. He had a plausible reason to be there. His his wife, and he had kids, and he held down a job for all these years. Those sorts of people don't become serial killers. Well, actually, they do become serial killers, people exactly like that. But, okay, and he wanted to move on, nothing to see here, move on. I think that's exactly what the police did at the time. The same attitude.
Again, assumption.
Well, of course it's an assumption.
Yeah.
But you have this bigger assumption that the police did check him out. Why do you believe they checked him out?
That's not a bigger assumption. That's more or less kind of police protocol 101. And like I spoke to you online many times, and same as Krista and many other guys, there's not one instance that has been provided where a person was found in a dark alleyway over a body where they wasn't checked out.
Well, I don't know if that's the case or not. Christie wasn't checked out.
No, he wasn't.
Christie wasn't checked out.
It was in his house, yeah.
I know, but he wasn't checked out. Evans was done for it, and he wasn't checked out. He was the star witness for the prosecution.
Yeah, but he wasn't found alone in a street that was in his house.
But the body was found in his house. Beryl, whatever her name is, and the daughter were found in the drains of his house.
Well, they had a perfect alibi, didn't you? The kind of Timothy Evans was number one suspected. Whereas they'd have to have a suspect
well, they had
to
suspects,
alleviate
they were looking at Leather Apron already. By the time Lechmere came forward, they were already looking at Leather Apron. What did they find out about? What could they have found out about him? They didn't find out his proper name.
Well, you don't know that. We don't know that. No one knows.
It's not in the records.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
Plausibly, if they'd found out his name would have been in the police files.
You admitted earlier on that they could knock around the door of Dubden Street and they say, oh yeah, Cross, yeah, we know him, he lives here. The same as at the work, which is the 1876.
But that implies, just say they did call on his house and say, oh, hold on a second, does actually Charles Cross live here? And his wife answers the door and she thinks, hold on a second, a bit like Peter Sutcliffe's wife gave fake alibis for Sutcliffe. She may say, oh yeah, Charles Cross, she thinks quickly to herself.
Would it have been an issue for her to come up with that kind of...
maybe she did. Maybe she covered for him, says, yeah, Charles Cross lives here, and they just went away again and never found out his name. That doesn't mean they investigated him, does it?
Well,
it's not an investigation into him, is it?
I think the fact that he was found over a victim or up where the body was, according to Paul, I believe that is ample reason to be like a suspect number one and to be checked out.
It should be, yes. But clearly, as I said, if they went there and they were satisfied with his name being Cross and didn't even find out his name's Lechmere, that means they didn't really do much of a job of checking it out.
That's a different year, it's a different time. People didn't, back in the day...
But you're saying they didn't, because it's a different time, they didn't do a very good job of checking him out?
No, I'm not saying that.
I would accept that.
No, I don't.
I agree.
Totally, but the thing is, just because they went round his house and asked, is Cross here? And they says, oh yeah, no, Charles Cross. She could be, and we know he worked at Pickford's under Cross for the 87.
We don't know that.
Well, there's just as much.
I'm comfortable with the fact that he could have called himself Cross.
And that's so if he called himself Cross, there's no big shenanigans that he's trying to evade anything by calling himself Cross.
Well, there is, because he knows that his name that he's properly identified under in all aspects of his life, apart from the one exception possibly at his work, he gives the name Lechmere. The fact that he chose to withhold that name Lechmere is the point of contention.
Who was his stepfather?
Well, by then it was a guy called Joseph Forsdyke.
Prior that brought him up.
Well, the one prior was called Thomas Cross.
Right. So Thomas Cross wrote illegally, like you say, because he wasn't adopted. He wrote illegally. His name was Cross in the records.
In the 1861 census. In the 1861 census, Thomas Cross listed the family under the name Cross, his wife.
But was it illegal for him to do so, registering Charles Cross or Charles Lechmere as Charles Cross?
Illegal. I'm not sure on the illegality of entries on the census records. It's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
I would say you're supposed to provide true information.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a legal penalty for not providing true information. So, for example, as you may know, he gave a fake age. He increased his age by 10 years.
Yeah.
So that he could have biologically.
So is that illegal?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's illegal.
So
he provided false information to the census.
So false
I don't know the legality
information
of
to
it.
the census. Cross would have picked up on that.
This is his
up.
father did. His father, who had entered into a bigamous marriage with his mother.
Exactly. So
and he was a policeman.
So he's
entering into a bigamous marriage with
he's
his mother would have been probably would have been slung out and met lots of police.
Follower of the law, and he was doing all this illegalities. Well, and so Cross comes along, and he enters a name that he's known at work as, maybe known as around the house and the streets as. So, I mean, if that
may or may not.
Yeah,
probably not because he opened up a shop nearby a couple of years later. Couple of years later, locally here under the name Lechmere. So if he was known locally
after
as Cross, a couple of years after. If he was known locally as Cross, logically he would have opened up the shop in Cross because he'd be trading on his name, wouldn't he? But he didn't. He opened up under Lechmere. His kids went to school under Lechmere.
And I totally agree with that.
He paid rent.
Thomas Cross, who was his stepdad,
voted under the name Lechmere.
Thomas Cross, who was his stepdad, had died and gone, long deceased.
19 years before.
Right. So of course he's going to call his children and name everything thereafter as Lechmere.
The thing
now he was booked in at work as Cross.
Well, possibly. If he was
from the 1876.
No, we don't know that. There's lots of potential explanations for. He could have said to his foreman. I'll give you this an example. He could have said to his foreman, I ran over some kiddie today.
I don't think so.
Accident. It was an accident. I ran over a kiddie.
Can't me back. I don't think so.
Look, every time when I ever in trouble, I always call myself Cross because my poor stepdad, he died a few years ago. He was called Thomas Cross, and he was a policeman with H Division. And as far as they're concerned, I'm always called Cross. No. So
the legalities involved in an inquest with a kid.
Well,
with the murder charge.
So
they would have been there. They would have had the guys in court.
You're happy with him at this inquest withholding his real name, Lechmere? Why didn't he say at both cases, my name? I go under the name Charles Cross, but my real name is Charles Lechmere. That's what most witnesses with multiple names. That's what people did. He didn't do that. In neither occasion did he do that. And if he had, this whole issue wouldn't have arisen. And that is the normal behaviour.
He was raised by Thomas Cross.
For a few years.
And Thomas Cross broke the law left, right and centre when it comes to legalities.
Well, he did on the inquest form. He did on the inquest form.
You've got to assume that he's going to grow up with this Thomas Cross, who's got him a job. He's landed him in this little position where he's happy as Larry. And all of a sudden, he says, oh, no. But from here on, you've got to be truthful and honest.
So you're saying that he did it out of dishonesty?
I'm not saying it's dishonest. I'm saying
he
was known as Cross.
You're alleging he's known as Cross. He was known in most walks of his life clearly as Lechmere. That was his official name. In a very serious matter.
Yeah. But also you've got to remember
tell them that his name was Lechmere.
Well, you've got to remember, just harking on about your other story with the gangs. The gangs were around this area. Gangs were well known for this. Harriet Lily, and outside her house and around this area.
Well, I don't know.
Knocking down people.
Okay, we'll come back to Harriet Lily in a moment. I know you're desperate to get on Harriet Lily. So stick to the gangs. The gangs don't feature in the Harriet Lily story, apart from in your imagination.
Well, no, there's a great book by a friend. What's his name?
I don't know.
Done a book on the gangs.
The gangs.
Jonathan Tye.
He's doing a book on the gangs.
No, he's just done it, I think.
I see, okay.
Yeah, he's done the book.
Okay, come back to the gangs. You think that one of the reasons that Lechmere withheld his name Lechmere was to somehow confuse the gangs?
Was to keep his family safe.
But if he gave them his this is another issue which I think which I want to come on to. I think you said many years ago that you accepted that he tried to keep his address from the court.
Yeah,
you accept that?
Yeah.
And it's only in the Star.
Yeah.
So the Star is the only newspaper that reported.
I discovered that, didn't I?
I think you may have done actually.
Yeah.
I think Chris. I'll say this again. Although Chris is a Lechmere Theory sceptic, has become very apparent in this conversation to anyone who's watching. But he found out. So he first pointed out, this is probably 10 years or more ago.
15, 20, 15 years ago.
That he was the person who brought it to attention that only one newspaper mentioned Lechmere's address and mentioned it in full, 22 Doveton Street, Cambridge Road, which is, so it gives not just the address, but they always gave the address with the nearest major road, so Doveton Street, Cambridge Road.
A lot, apart from the police guys.
It's in the police file because he must have given a statement to the police, and it would have had to given that. So that's why they had it. But the fact that the police had it, it must have been supplied to the coroner with his witness statement. He must have given to the police whenever he went to the police. Well, I'm not going to go into when he went to the police. He must have been supplied to the coroner, so the coroner must have had his address in front of him on a bit of paper, and the coroner's clerk
disclose it in front of the inquest.
So what's your view on that?
Well, I've not really got a view on that, to be honest with you. My opinion is maybe he was given the anonymity of the police.
So do you think the police allowed him to
It's a possibility. Either that or they didn't know because he didn't tell them. Much more content to follow. Don't forget to subscribe to Ed's channel.
And share and comment below. But carry on watching to the end. My view is that in the confusion and the hubbub of the court, he just didn't say his address. They said, identify yourself, and he just said, Charles Allen Cross, and he didn't. And I work at Pickford's.
Back in the day, the coroners were stipulant. They made a point of getting everyone's address out.
Well, he already had the address. He already had the address because he would have had it in front of him. Because he would have had his statement with his address on it. But so I think that's what you think. Okay, you agree that he didn't read his address out in court.
Yeah.
And do you agree? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you agree that the journalist or the reporter who worked for the Star must have obtained it from the court clerk or something?
I think so.
In the lunch recess or something.
Yeah, but why did he do that? What was the reason behind that? Because all the police...
What was the reason why he didn't give this address in court?
Yeah, I mean, there's different kind of reasoning that you can...
Okay, so I think it's because he deliberately didn't do it and the judge missed it, or the
judge won't miss it. The coroner wouldn't miss it.
So your view is that he was given permission to not give it out?
Possibly. Possibly. He was given anonymity, the same anonymity that was given to the police guys, all the guys that worked in the...
policemen didn't give their addresses in court. They just
nor did ex-army. I
don't know about that. I don't think
or guys that was ex-police that was working in White Square.
Well, he gave his address because he was living as a caretaker in the building there.
Give his address.
Yeah, Morris. Was it Morris? The guy who blew the... Where's your whistle? The guy who blew his whistle. The guy who blew the whistle and came out.
Was he ex-army? Was he ex-police?
No, he was ex-policeman.
Did he give his address?
He was an ex-Met policeman, yes, because he was...
Or did he say he was working in the
Yeah.
warehouse?
He had his door open. He was the caretaker. He was living on premises.
I don't think he gave an address.
He was living on premises, so he lived there. The last segment we're going to do with Chris is about Harriet Lily. That is roughly her house there, with that fake sort of ivy hanging down there. That's where Harriet Lily lived. She was a witness. She claimed, I'll give a quick resume of Harriet Lily. She claimed that she heard gasps. The crime scene is now where that bike is, and she claimed she heard gasps. She heard a train going that allegedly went past at 3:30. And from her window up there where the ivy was, she heard this noise. She gave this report 6 days after. The Echo newspaper interviewed her 6 days after. Presumably they did a door-to-door thing here. She hadn't appeared to... There was a policeman on duty in the road here. The police left a policeman on duty here so that people could speak to them and give evidence.
Which Paul kind of got...
The police didn't speak to her. She didn't come forward to the police. She came forward to the Echo newspaper 6 days after the crime and gave this evidence of hearing these sounds, these noises, which had been timed to be around 3:30. So what's your view on this?
My view is she was worried about the gangs, and as soon as the gang thing was cleared up and it wasn't okay, she knew it wasn't the gangs and she was safe to say what she heard, she came forward and reported it.
Okay, so you think that the reason she came forward late, 6 days late, was because she was initially worried about being targeted by a gang.
And then when the gangs were ruled out,
what evidence
she
have you
came
got for that?
Well, the time frame, really.
Apart from that, why don't you think she just didn't bother coming forward?
Well, because of the gangs. She left.
But what do you make you think it was the gangs that was the cause of it?
It's kind of tied and linked with the 1 minute there was it was a gang responsible for the murders, the 3 prior murders. There were gang.
Why would the gang, based on the evidence or the story? It's not really evidence. The story she told to the Echo journalist. Why would the gangs have attacked her?
Well,
why do you think a gang would have targeted her?
Well, it wasn't the story she told to the Echo, was it? It was the assumption that it was the gang that was the reason she didn't come forward earlier.
Well, that's your assumption, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good assumption. I think it's great.
Okay, so coming back to it then, with Harriet Lilley, do you think Harriet Lilley is a credible witness?
I think she's credible.
Why do you think she's credible?
I think she's credible because she heard the murder take place at a certain time around. But do you know what? She wasn't called up.
Why do you think she wasn't called up as a witness?
Well, because the murders took another, like Hanbury Street took it straight away after.
Or 2 days later.
Yeah, straight away. And that by the time that kind of furore started, it was old.
So why didn't she appear in the police?
Because everything we heard from the police amounted to what went down. And
so
regardless, I mean, the police said around, so the coroner said around 3:30, okay. Which could have taken in account to her train.
Well, she said the coroner said 3:45, didn't he?
Yeah. No, about 3:45.
Okay. So you think that she came forward late because she didn't want to? Not because she didn't want to get involved.
Well, she told her husband.
But she was reluctant to get involved.
She woke up and she told most reluctant. And she told her husband that she had that whole
she said she did at the time. So she said she couldn't go to sleep properly.
Yep.
So one of the things you said just then, you think that the police investigation had gone on was down a certain track.
Yeah.
And so when she appeared late, they didn't want to fit her into it because they're already in their own.
Well, everything corresponded with what she was saying. Basically, everything kind of fitted in with. It was a tight package.
So they didn't even bother interviewing her.
What was the point? I don't see the point. Yeah. Especially when after
the coroner didn't say, let's hear this woman. She's got something to say about the time of death.
Because the killings had taken another step, hadn't they, with Hanbury Street just after.
Okay, yeah. So as I said, do you think they were going off into another direction?
Yeah, it was a completely.
The investigation was going.
It spiraled. We went from a little smoke to a flame.
Well, that actually is my view. One of my views about why Lechmere was missed, because he came forward late. There was the police
allegedly
often get involved, go on a certain track, like on a railway line, and they can't get diverted off it. Once they're going down a certain track, they don't like getting diverted off. Lechmere came forward 3 days late, and so it was a diversion. They already had their investigation, their inquiry was going off in this direction. They didn't want to get diverted there. I can see perhaps why that works with Harriet Lilley. But Harriet Lilley, you're familiar with the concept of recreated memory witnesses. If she came forward 6 days late, her account given to the Echo was 6 days after the events, when there was newspaper stories and all the hysteria, probably gossip in the street as well, that would have affected her memory, wouldn't it?
Well, no, here's the thing. Harriet Lilley, the testimony, I think, which makes her testimony truthful, is the fact that she came through and she wasn't, I heard it at 3:40 or 3:45, because that's what
she didn't actually give the police. This is the thing.
She said 3:30, which is way off.
She didn't give a time. The newspaper
I got you.
Looked supposedly at the train times and said they thought that a luggage train
went about 3:30.
She didn't give a time. In fact, it was the newspaper, and we haven't actually got confirmation of that from the time from any of the.
Well, when you take what
sources.
she actually said and dissect it and put it into context of what actually happened, what we know, evidential, she heard the lug at 3:30. But she heard the whispers and the voices just after the lug had passed, and she wouldn't have heard the voices and whispers under the noise of the lug, because that would have been too loud.
Well, I don't think the train would have been behind that wall, down below behind that wall.
I've lived next to train tracks.
60 foot.
I know how you can't hear next to a train track.
Well, you also get your mind gets used to the sounds, doesn't it?
No, but you wouldn't hear whispering from that window there.
If she
people
heard
underneath.
it, if she actually heard it, she was also.
Allegedly, if she heard the whispering, she wouldn't have heard the whispering from there to there if a train was going past there. She would only have heard that after.
Yes, but she
said she heard the moans as the train went past.
Also, she was going in and out of sleep that night, which is another reason why people's recollections in such circumstances are very poor. So you got the 6 day late. She was going in and out of sleep.
Man, didn't she?
She was very late in coming forward when recreation of memory gets involved.
You call recreation of memory. I call it fear of gang retribution.
Yes. And her testimony was ignored by the coroner and the police. You can't say
I wouldn't say it was
witness.
ignored.
Well,
maybe overlooked, like you say.
Overlooked, ignored.
Yeah,
I'm happy with both words.
Yeah, overlooked because there was more stuff going on and she didn't add to any inquest.
Anyway, Chris, we've been here quite a long time. There's lots of people walking past looking very suspiciously at us. Next time you're over, Chris lives in Canada. Next time you're over, we'll have to do another one.
Absolutely,
we'll probably
mate.
go down to Happy Days Fish and Chip Shop.
Yes.
And we'll discuss the Masonic. No.
We could have some of that.
We'll discuss the Masonic connection.
Yes, absolutely. The Freemasons.
Okay.
They were there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night. God bless.
Now, Chris here claims to be. Oh, sorry, he is.
What
a
he
professional
means is
musician.
the greatest musician.
Professional musician. And he's done this very good song called
Foggy Night in Spitalfield and Islington and actually Jerusalem and all, which is out there.
And he's got a whole
William
music
Blake.
channel. In fact, I'll put a link to that below in the description. Yeah. And Foggy Night in Spitalfields. Describe Foggy Night in Spitalfields.
Great song about the victims of the Whitechapel murders.
Yep. And now, before we close, here is
Foggy Night in Spitalfields.
Thank you.
Here's to Polly, Annie, Liz and Kathy, Mary, Kelly too, and all the poor unfortunates who lived alongside you. The torment and the suffering this whole town put you through. On a foggy night in Spitalfields, I'll raise a glass to you. On a foggy night in Spitalfields, I'll raise a glass to you. It was in the bloody autumn back in 1888. On the cobble streets of Whitechapel, a killer lay in wait. In the gaslit passageways, a shadow no one knows for sure. The old East End of London town, shaken to its core. The old East End of London town, shaken to its core. A kid called Polly Nichols, jolly bonnet upon her head. All you needed was just fourpence and a place to lay your head. So how you ended up that night down in Old Box Road, neath the shadow of the Ripper, it's for only you to know. And along came Annie Chapman, dark Kenny, she was known. From the 10 Bells Pub to Hanbury Street, she wandered all alone. 'Twas early in the morning, the clock in Brick Lane chimed. Who left you in the yard that morn at the back of 29? Who left you in the yard that morn at the back of 29? Stride just 45, her friends all called along to walk the streets of London town. From Sweden she had come. As the rain came down in Berners Street, did you struggle as did you fight? Did you feel the Ripper watching you that dark September night? up in Mitre Square. Kathy, who'd you chose to lead you to the darkest corner there? Did they know your name was Eddowes? Was it you they came to find? God bless you, Catherine Eddowes, and the street you left behind. God bless you, Catherine Eddowes, and the street you left behind.
And thanks for watching. Please subscribe to Ed's channel. It's a wonderful station.
Share, like, and comment below as well. Thank you very much, Chris.